Hello, everyone, and welcome in. I hope everyone's had a fantastic day. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up, subscribe, and share this video. Oh, good, Laura. Amazing. Yeah, I really get to where I really wrap things really well. So I do recycle a lot of things, but this is I think this lesson today is one of the most important ones, especially to those Christians that really gives us hope, as it should other people as well. But today we had a pretty good rain out there, and those Japanese beetles are relentless. They've been eating my roses. I'm going to have to put more dust on there to get rid of them. But this, I, of course, we know a lot about the crucifixion of Christ and his rising from the dead, but there's so many in particulars in the middle of it that unless we really look into it, we really don't know, and how surprising it was to go through this and see all the information that's there. But this should be really interesting, and I think the next one's going to be about the book of Revelations, the prophecy, and stuff like that, because I do think it is full of prophecy and a lot of it. And I think a lot of it's going on right now. You can see it unfolding, but, no one knows the hour or the day. So we just have to, you know, hang in there and know that better times are coming. So we'll give it just a few minutes for people to come in. But once you start studying these specific things in the Bible, it just, you learn more and more, and it opens up such a wide range of answered questions, for me. But I've never read the Bible from front to cover, so I am working on that, though. A lot of these books, I'm on Leviticus right now, and a lot of these chapters are pretty long, and you just have to take your time and read those so you can learn what it means. We may not understand everything, but we can have an understanding of it. But yeah, there's a lot of long books in the Bible, and they're long for a reason. So that's for our teaching experience, basically, is what I think it is. And so this one is really going to be a good one, because we're talking about the crucifixion of Christ and his, when he was risen from death. But there's so many chapters in the Bible. I find Matthew, Mark, and Luke and John are known for a lot of this information. Matthew, especially because it goes into a lot of detail, and of him being crucified and being falsely accused. And if you think about it, when in today's world, when you're a Christian, you will be accused of everything, and it's really hard sometimes to remain forgiving at these times, because you're like, oh my goodness, where did that come from? But remember, Jesus said they did it to me first. So we have to fight those battles. And one way to do it is the pages within this Bible, because it, in fact, is a roadmap to what, the history of everything and what's to come, and how we should react to certain situations. And, being human, sometimes that's a little hard, because we are human and we do have feelings, and it's just that, you really have to cling to God because, you know, a lot of the things that's going on in the world today are really, it did say in the last days that the times will be hard to deal with, and they really are. There's a lot of things going on right now that we really don't understand about, all the murders and all the drug trafficking and all the, neighbor against neighbor and disobedience to parents and everything like that. It's all there. And it really didn't happen overnight. It was kind of a casual thing where, a snowball starts out little, but then as it goes down that hill, it gets bigger to the point where it's very overwhelming. So, but I even learned some things as I went through the Bible about, we know the basic things about, Christ being crucified and his resurrection on the third day. But then there's so many interesting pieces of information in between there that, it really, the explanation is very deep about the whole thing. So, but I think we're going to go ahead and get started. And, like I said, in the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, there are sources of the historical information about Jesus's crucifixion. And they also recount the ministry and the resurrection as well. And I think we're going to start in Matthew because this is the most, this tells in detail what exactly happened and things like that. Of course, we know that Jesus was falsely accused because he began to have a lot of followers, and naturally those in charge were kind of envious of the fact that he did. And that's what, even in real life, if you're a good person and you do the right thing, and people are going to come after you, because they believe they want you to be like them. So therefore they do things and say things to get, a rise out of you. And this is it was no different back then. So we're going to start reading in Matthew 27, and we're going to read on down. This is going to be kind of lengthy, so bear with me, but I think it's, hey Gigi, welcome in, sweetie. But I think it's very pertinent to the crucifixion of Christ because it tells in detail what exactly happened and stuff like that. So we're going to start reading in Matthew chapter 27. When the morning came, all the chief priests and the elders of the people plotted against Jesus to put him to death. And when they bound him, they led him away and delivered him to Pontius Pilate, the governor. Then Judas, his betrayer, seeing that he had been condemned, was remorseful and brought back the 30 pieces of silver to the priests and the elders, saying, I have sinned by betraying innocent blood, which he was innocent. And they said, what is that to us? You see to it. Then he drew down the pieces of silver in the temple and departed and went and hanged himself. But the chief priests took the silver pieces and said, it is not lawful to put them into the treasury because they are the price of blood. And they consulted together and brought with them the potter's field to bury strangers in. Therefore, that field has been called the field of blood to this day. Then was fulfilled that was spoken by Jeremiah the prophet, saying, And they took the 30 pieces of silver, the value of him who was priced, whom of the children of Israel priced, and they gave them for the potter's field, as the Lord directed me. Now Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor asked him, saying, Are you the king of the Jews? Jesus said to him, It is as you say. And while he was being accused by the chief priests and the elders, he answered nothing. When Pilate said to him, Do you not hear how many things they testify against you? But he answered him not one word. So the governor marveled greatly. Now at the feast, the governor was accustomed to the releasing to the multitude one prisoner whom they wished. Hey, Angie, welcome in. And at that time, they had a notorious prisoner called Barabbas. Therefore, when they had gathered together, Pilate said to them, Whom do you want me to release to you, Barabbas or Jesus, who is called Christ? For he knew that they had handed him over because of envy, and that's true because his followers were getting more, and so therefore they felt intimidated. So that's what happens when people get in high places and see someone come in, and they're intimidated by that. While he was sitting on the judgment seat, his wife sent to him, saying, Have nothing to do with that man, for I have suffered many things today in a dream because of him. But the chief priests and elders persuaded the multitudes that they should ask for Barabbas and destroy Jesus. The governor answered and said to them, Which of the two do you want me to release to you? They said, Barabbas. Pilate said to them, What then shall I do with Jesus, who is called Christ? They all said to him, Let him be crucified. When the governor said, Why, what evil has he done? But they cried out all the more, saying, Let him be crucified. When Pilate saw that he could not prevail at all, but rather than a tumult was rising, he took water and washed his hands before the multitude, saying, I am innocent of the blood of this just person, you see to it. And all the people answered and said, His blood be on us and our children. Then he released Barabbas to them and said, He has scourged Jesus. He delivered him to be crucified. Then the soldiers of the governor took Jesus into the Praetorium and gathered the whole garrison around him. And they stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him. When they had twisted a thorn of crowns, they put on his head and a reed in his right hand, and they bowed the knee before him and mocked him, saying, Hail, King of the Jews. Then they spat on him and took the reed and struck him on the head. And when they had mocked him, they took the robe off him, put his own clothes on him, and led him away to be crucified. Now as they came out, they found a man of Cyrene, Simon by the name. Him they compelled to hear his cross. And when they had come to a place called Golgotha, that is to say, place of a skull, they gave him sour wine mingled with gall to drink, but when he had tasted it, he would not drink. Then they crucified him and divided his garments, casting lots, that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by the prophet. They divide my garments among them, and for my clothing they cast lots. Sitting down, they kept watch him there, and they put over his head the accusation written against him, This is Jesus, the King of the Jews. So, as you can see, he was falsely accused by, the people. They kind of feared because they didn't, when people are in power, they don't want to lose that power and that effect over the people. So therefore, you know, he, he was born, he led a sinless life, and his ministry went far and wide. And he, like I said, he had many followers, which to some people that was not a good thing. And, it just, but, when he was born as a baby and sent down here, he knew what his fate was. He knew that. And he did that for us. It wasn't there, that's why God sent his son, because he saw all the evil on the earth and he wanted to give the Christian people and everyone a chance to accept God to save their self, from that second death, which that's not a good thing neither. And he was also hung on in the middle of two thieves. And to my understanding, he had a conversation with one, and the thief said, "If you are the Son of Man, then save yourself and us." And then Jesus replied, "I saith unto you, something about you will wake up in paradise." So therefore, he had forgiven even that thief while he was on the cross. And going a little bit further, then the two robbers were crucified with him, one on the right, another on the left. And those who passed by blasphemed him, wagging their heads and saying, "You who destroy the temple and built it in 3 days, save yourself. If you are the Son of God, come down from the cross." Likewise, the chief priests, also mocking with the scribes and elders, said, "He saved others, himself he cannot save. If he is the King of Israel, let him now come down from the cross, and we will believe him. He trusted in God, let him deliver him now, if he will have him, for he said, I am the Son of God." Even the robbers who were crucified with him reviled him with the same thing. Now from the 6th hour until the 9th hour there was darkness over all the land. And about the 9th hour Jesus cried out with a loud voice, saying, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Some of those who stood there when they heard that said, "This man is calling for Elijah." Immediately one of them ran and took a sponge, filled it with sour wine, and put it on a reed and offered it to him to drink. The rest said, "Let him alone. Let us see if Elijah will come to save him." And Jesus cried out again with a loud voice and yielded up his spirit. Then behold, the veil of the temple was torn in two from the top to the bottom, and the earth quaked, and the rocks were split. So, in other words, after his death, all these things took place, and they probably believed then, maybe, I don't know. But, a lot of your depictions in the Bible of Christ, before his death, it was told that he was barely recognizable as a human. And the Roman soldiers, some of their punishment tactics were barbaric, to say the least. So it kind of shows right there. You have this man beaten beyond recognition that is able to carry a cross up on the hill. And that had to have been God that carried him, because my goodness, I think he was beaten for quite a while. So that had to have been God. God knew what the world was going to be like because of Satan and his trickery, and he had to make a way out for people that they wouldn't suffer that second death. And he was crucified for all of us, and even before he even knew the people that would be born after that fact. So it's I think believing in him and loving him with all your heart, body, mind, and soul is a small price to pay. After all, he did die on the cross, and he did that so that one day that we would all be in heaven, as long as we follow his commandments and such. And we got to admit, there's a lot of bad things on this earth. A lot of people have health problems. They're sick every day. They take lots of medication. And for those who believe, one day all that's going to be over with. And these people that have had infirmities down on this earth, that's going to be gone. And we're all going to have new bodies, and there will be no suffering, no sorrow, no sobbing. And that's something really to look forward to, in my estimation. But like I was telling Laura, it gets very interesting as you read the other things that happened during his crucifixion and stuff like that. But and another thing, it was also prophesied that the bones of the lamb would not be broken. So as we remember, that Roman soldier went into his rib cage and pierced that, and that pretty much took care of it, because they had already broken the bones of one of the thieves on the cross. But it's when I can't even watch, when they have this on during Easter, I can't watch the punishment that Jesus was put through, because it just makes a person tremble to know that. I mean, I don't, it was very violent, and I cannot stand to watch that to this very day. Not that I'm in denial, it's because I don't want to see something like that. But so, it's, we may not, like I said, we may not be called upon to suffer the same indignation that Christ did, but, we have to, all Christians realize the significance of Christ's death on the cross and what that means to us and others that may accept Christ, because he offers us eternal life through his death on the cross. And it's just like I said, I cannot watch that at Easter time, that crucifixion. I can't do it. I mean, I know it happened, I know the details, but I just can't. I don't know. So and let's see what else we have. But here's some other things that also happened that merit being read. And it said, Jesus cried out again with a loud voice and yielded up his spirit. Then behold, the veil was torn from from top to bottom, and the rocks were split. And it said, the graves were opened, and the many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep were raised. And coming out of the graves after his resurrection, they went into the holy city and appeared to many. Couldn't you imagine that? I mean, that was really affirmation that they did crucify the Son of Man, but couldn't you imagine all these people being raised and coming out of their graves, and they went into the holy city and appeared to many? So there again, that shows that exactly who was crucified. So when the centurion and those with him were guarding Jesus saw the earthquake and the things that happened, they feared greatly, saying, truly this was the Son of God. And many women who followed Jesus from Galilee, ministering to him, were looking on from afar, among whom were Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James and Joseph, and the mother of Zebedee's sons. Now when evening had come, there was a rich man from Arimathea named Joseph, who was himself had also become a disciple of Jesus. This man went to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus. Then Pilate commanded the body to be given to him. When Joseph had taken the body, he wrapped it in a clean linen cloth and laid it in his new tomb, which he had hewn out of rock, and rolled a large stone against the door of the tomb, and departed. And Mary Magdalene was there, and the other Mary sitting opposite the tomb. On the next day, which followed the day of preparation, the chief priests and the Pharisees gathered together to Pilate, saying, Sir, we remember while he was still alive how that deceiver said, in 3 days I will rise. So this takes us directly into Christ's resurrection. And in Luke chapter 24, verses 6 through 7, it says, He is not here. Remember how he told you while he was still with you in Galilee, the Son of Man must be delivered over to the hands of the sinners, be crucified, and on the third day be raised again. Now, John, which was one of Jesus' most beloved prophets, John saw Jesus' ascension into the heaven after 40 days. And actually, he saw this twice. And I'll give you a little explanation here of the, let's see. John saw the ascension twice. The first time he saw it looking up from the earth, and Jesus rose into the clouds, and his vision of the coronation was thus obscured. The second time he was taken up into the heavens, and he saw Jesus come in from the earth and enthroned at the right hand of the Father. So that was something that the 40 days, that was something that I really didn't know. But during this 40 days, he went to his disciples, Jesus did, and they thought he was a ghost, and Jesus said, a ghost is not of flesh and blood. So finally, he showed them the nail where the nails pierced his hands and feet. And one of the disciples walked up and put his hand in the very hole that was attached to the cross, and he knew it was Jesus, and immediately fell down and worshiped him. See, even the disciples had lost faith. They thought that just because Jesus was crucified that he was gone, and that was not the fact. And on the third day he rose again, and his 40 days upon the earth and, visiting his disciples, they didn't even, even though they were amongst Jesus, they did not have faith because they did not believe what they were seeing. They thought Jesus was deceased and that was it. But, and is that not any different from what people are today? I guess that's where the word faith comes in. A lot of people do not believe in what they cannot see, touch, or whatever. But it was, even back then, it was like that. So I imagine they were really amazed by what they saw. And, there's Jesus standing right in front of somebody and they're still questioning whether he's alive or not. I don't see, that's how we are today. We don't, and he even said that he was to be handed into the hands of sinners and crucified, and he would rise on the third day. He said that in Galilee to his disciples, yet, they, like I said, it's really no different today than it was back then. But, Jesus dying on that cross gave, us the ability, after the trials of this life is over with, not to have to suffer again, but have eternal life with a new body and, to be in his kingdom. I think that's, to live forever, everyone, that would really be a nice, sentiment there. So he did that for us and for all those who came after us. He opened the doorway to eternal life. And, excuse me, it says, knock and the door shall be open, and seek and ye shall find. And that's true. But, everything, seek, all this information's in the Bible and to our disposal. But there again, it's up to us to read that Bible. The Bible doesn't read itself unless you have like books on tape or whatever, and it will do that. But, we have to read, the Bible. And, even though things are very wrong on this earth, Jesus' resurrection gives us hope for tomorrow, and to know that one day the trials of this earth and everything that's wrong on it, is going to be over with. And we, the dead will be raised first, and then, we'll all be in paradise, just like he told the thief on the cross. Excuse me. But, you have to, you can't straddle the fence. Either you believe or you don't. There's no in between. God does not force his will on anyone, but he does give you the intellect to read and understand things, But being a Christian is not easy, because there are things that go on out there. We are tempted daily, and we have to learn to not give in to those temptations. And Satan will use the things that he knows that's your weakness, and that's the first nerve that he'll poke, because he knows what gets to you and what don't. He knows how to press your buttons, so to speak. But it's, like I said, it's just wonderful knowing that one day that the trials of this life, when our life is over and we're in heaven, I don't think we'll really remember everything about what happened here on earth because God wipes all those things out of our mind, because it's kind of like a starting over situation where we're in heaven, we have a new body, we're amongst loved ones, and, I don't think He would, because I don't think any negative things would be allowed in heaven anyway. So all those things will come to pass and will be, there with God as He intended His children to be. But, you have to, the acceptance part, you have to accept that, God gives you every day you live. You can't, anything can happen to anybody because we're on this earth and accidents happen, people have health problems, and we just never know. You can be the most healthiest person in the world and go out and someone will hit you in a car and kill you, and we just don't know. That's why we have to cling close to God and His promises to be able to get through these tough times that we're going through. God didn't say that life here was going to be easy, and that's why He sent His Son to give us hope and encouragement that this life is not all that's there. And some people believe after you pass away, that's it. That's only the beginning, depending, on where you're going, and it's, you might want to be on the good side versus the bad side, but, we're all children of God, and yes, we do fall away from God. Say, like when something happens, we lose the loved one, or we're financially in trouble, we kind of have a tendency to fall away when in fact we should go too, because God holds, He holds all the cards of our life. And it's when we go through these things and we become broken that, God says, I am the light, I am the life, I am the resurrection. And sometimes when things happen to us and we're broken, there's cracks, and it does allow the light in. But that's the time when you should really, go to God and be close to Him, because He is the one that He holds our future, and we should not. People say, "Well, why did God let this happen?" Well, God did not let that happen. You were a victim of circumstances, being whether it was your fault or someone else's. God is not, He is there for our counsel, excuse me, and to come to when we're feeling down and we feel like that life has handed us a bad deal, and He's there, and sometimes God, He allows things to happen for a lesson, because He knows us, He knows the number of hairs on our head, and when we fall away, He knows how to bring us back in, through sometimes through every tragedy there's a blessing somewhere. And that's the way we have to look at it, because if we didn't, it would be, and sometimes God does things to teach us a lesson, and the more stubborn we are, the more we have to go through it. But it's not because God He does not like to punish His children. However, He does like them to learn a lesson through what we're going through and things like that. He really does. And, He, like I said, He died for us, and that wasn't didn't die for just one of us. He died for all of us. And he knew that's why he didn't say anything to while he was being accused, because he knew what his fate was and what it had to be. And God had to send him because he knew pretty much what was going to happen, being that Satan was running around down here. And, you know, that was a proverbial life preserver to us as people, to give us hope that everything that we've gone through down here on earth will not be for nothing, as long as we keep that faith and stay close to God. And we do that through prayer. You have to pray to him. He knows what happened. He knows what happened to you, but he wants to hear from you. He don't, because that relationship is formed, excuse me. And that's what he wants. He wants to be a part of your life. He wants you to look to him for guidance. And when you're down and hurting, he wants to console you. He wants to send down his love, because that's what he is. He is a loving God, and he is a just God. And sometimes, like I said, we go through things and we lose people that we love, and we're like, God, why is this happening? It says for everything there is a season, and for everything there is a reason. And, we're not going to pass until God says so. We don't know how it's going to happen. We don't know when it's going to happen. And no one likes the word death, but death comes to all of us, and it depends upon where you're going after that death that counts. Like I said, I don't think there will be any accounts of things that happen to us in heaven, because in heaven things like that don't exist. But I just found it really amazing. I didn't know that. But it says Mark was one of Jesus's most beloved disciples, and I guess that's why he chose him on his ascension and his appearance. And I didn't know, and reading through it, I didn't know about the 40 days. You would think I would have. It really never dawned on me that he was on the earth 40 days after his resurrection, but according to the Bible, he sure was. And there's just many, many accounts of his, especially in the book of Matthew, about his crucifixion and his resurrection. I think two of the biggest holidays for people to go to church is probably Easter and Christmas. They call them the C&E group. Well, I think maybe during Easter time, maybe people really grasp the thing of, Jesus rising from his grave, or it's just something they do. But I think that if you're going to church on Easter, you should fully grasp why you're going, and to recognize that Easter is, here in America, Easter is about the Easter bunny, candy, and etc. But to me, it is about Christ rising from the grave and saving our souls from condemnation. He he went and prepared a place for us. If it were not so, he would not have said. But I'm not saying that that's why people go to church, but I'm saying that if you go to church, especially on these 2 days, your heart should be in the right place. You should, first of all, Christmas is about Christ's birth and stuff like that. And you should take that and you should see that, about, his birth and what he was sent here to do and his time on earth. And, even Easter, where, he rose from the dead, and he said he was going to, as he witnessed to John here. But the Bible is just full of accounts of, his crucifixion and his resurrection. And it's, sometimes when the going gets tough, even some of his disciples abandoned him there in the end. They did not have the faith to believe what he told them, that he would be raised from the dead, and they did not believe him. And he told them in Galilee that he would be crucified by the hands of sinners and be raised again by the third day. But it's when the going gets tough, you have to, either you believe or you don't. There's no straddling the fence. But it's just, this is kind of a brief synopsis of a lot of things that transpired during his crucifixion and his resurrection. There's a lot of information here, and I probably read more than I normally would, but I felt like it was pertinent to the situation, that people would know exactly how everything unraveled in this whole thing. But as you heard, Jesus did not speak anything during the time he was being accused, because he already knew he was going to be crucified. He knew that. That's why he was sent down here to earth, to live the life of a man, be born, live the life of a man, preach the gospel, and be crucified because of it. He knew that. But even in his death, after he had rose from his grave, he still appeared, he still did the ministry as well, But, like I said, back in the day, those Roman soldiers, they had some real cruel ways of punishing people. And, but like I said, it's just amazing, the pages and pages of information on this, and like it said, he was handed over for envy. How many times are people judged because what they look like, what kind of car they have, what house they live in, their status in the community? People are judged for that, and they're envied. They do not take the time. There's a person there. Had they ever stopped to think that maybe the things that person has been worked for, that nothing was handed to these people? Instead of reflecting on the lives of other people, maybe they should stand in the mirror and look at their own before they judge someone else. I think that's what they call redirection, when a person, their self-esteem is so low, they want to reflect that on someone else and focus on that instead of looking at the real problem themselves. You can't, just because people have things, Number one, it does not make them evil. It just doesn't. Before you judge somebody, get to know that person. You know, if they're an attractive person, let me tell you something. Everyone gets older and people change. It's what's right there that matters because people will change. And sometimes the most, um, I don't care what you look like, how beautiful you are. If you're ugly in here, you're ugly, period. Because if being attractive makes you treat people bad, makes you judge people, then you're wrong. You're just totally wrong. But to me, I look on the person. I don't look at what they have, what they look like. I go on what's in their heart. And I figure, well, if they have this, they probably worked for it. Isn't it funny how people want to be so downtrodden on other people and they don't have things? It's because they don't try. Don't get down on someone else because they worked and earned something. And people make too many excuses. I know, Laura, they really do. Like I said, beauty's only skin deep, and we all get older and things will change, but your heart, it's your heart. A person can be, well, look at Jesus. Uh, the lepers, he, they were with him. The prostitute was, and he didn't knock on someone's door or look at somebody and say, they have all this money and I'm going to get in cahoots with them because that makes me look important. Stand on your own. Don't count on someone else, first of all, to save your soul. A minister, he can preach, but he can't save your soul. It's up to you to do that. And I've had people that they think things about me, and I had one person in particular that I had known for a long time, and they really disliked me, and I really didn't know why. But you know what? Once they got to know me, the things that they thought didn't matter because they saw the person, not the, you have to get to know people to be able to, and we shouldn't judge people anyway, but we're human and that's what we do. We judge people. But, once you get to know that person and, don't make a snap decision on someone unless you know them. Have you taken time to talk to that person? Do you really know exactly what you're judging them for? And that's how people are. They want to make a conclusion when they don't even know about the person. But we're not all perfect. We're perfectly imperfect because we're human and that's how we were created. And we were given a mind and logic. And another thing, well, someone says, well, will convince another person not to like someone else because they don't like them. And I look at it like this: excuse me, if I had a hamburger for lunch, I think it's beginning to talk back, but I'm smart enough to know I can see, I'm not going to let someone else think for me. I'm smart enough to make my own decision and stuff like that. And the more someone badmouths someone, the more the fingers pointing at them, because life is too short to spend it tearing other people down because it makes you feel like you're more important or it makes you look like somebody. I'll tell you what it makes you look like. It makes you look like a fool. Try to be encouraging, uplifting, because you don't know what that person's going through that you're judging because your buddy thinks don't like them. That's another thing. There's a lot of people who get into disagreements right here on YouTube. And I'm not going to dislike someone else because you do. I'm not going to do it. You need to go to that person and settle your grievances and figure something out. Stop cutting other people's throats because you feel wounded. And why do you feel wounded? Because you probably said something you shouldn't have. But anyway, but YouTube does have a lot of good people on there, and I've met a lot of good people. And like the old song says, you got to stand for something or you'll fall for anything. But, it's kind of, thank you, Laura. It's kind of, like Jesus, when he was being accused, he said nothing. And how hard would it be for us as people to be accused and we know we're innocent and say absolutely nothing? So, it is hard, but, Jesus paid that price for everyone, not just certain people. And another thing that's going on in this world right now is a lot of prejudice. I don't care what color your skin is, how much money you have, what kind of car you drive. We're all people and we are all created equal. And a lot of times there's prejudice against the Indians as well. I know that one reason why the Indians were so brutal is because their land was taken. Let's say about 12 miles up the road from me. There's one of these days I'm going to go down there and do a video on this, but there's a graveyard up there, and there's this big monument off to the side, and it talks about how the Indians went through there and lots of people were massacred. I mean, just one right after the other. But I think it's a thing where the Indians' land was taken. It's called Pigeon Roost. And one day I'll take you guys up there and I'll show you the monument that stands there, an acknowledgement of all the bloodshed that took place. But it's just off the road there, and they have this. I haven't been up there in quite some time, and but I can't condone it, but I can kind of understand why the Indians were so upset. We cannot live in the past. I'm not a prejudiced person. You are going through that now, not saying anything like Jesus did. The relationship with God is crucial. Take that hurt to him, and he will bring the truth out. Yes, Laura, he does. And sometimes it happens when we least expect it. And, it comes out and it's like it's right there. And because we're so upset with the way things go, we can't see the forest for the trees to see what's in front of our face. And that is so true. But, I'm not a prejudiced person. I've never been a prejudiced person. And that falls back on, I have to tell you the story about my husband. When my father-in-law told me when he was a little boy, they went somewhere and he saw this black man. So immediately, the simplicity of a child, he was different and he probably wasn't used to seeing a person of color. And he goes, "Dad, I don't like him. He's black." And he said, "Now, son, wait a minute." He said, "You don't feel that way. He's a human being, just like you. He just has a different skin color. But, isn't that's kind of a remark of a young, he may not have been around many, colored people, and maybe he was just because he was different. But see, his dad took that opportunity to correct that behavior. And I'm telling you, a lot of prejudice comes from this is taught to children at a young age because children are innocent when they are born. They accept kids as they are, and prejudice is taught. You know, I find that my dad was extremely prejudiced, but I looked at it like this: why should I have something against someone that never did anything to me? So therefore, I think again that was a generational thing, and there's people of different ethnicities, and we're all the same. God created all of us. He didn't say, well, I'm gonna create this race and they're better. He didn't say that. Because at the end of the day, we're supposed to get along with each other. That's what we were created for. We wasn't supposed to be bickering with each other and saying, well, you're different, and so from me, and that makes me right. No, it doesn't make you right. It makes you accountable, is what it does, because you have spoken out of turn. If you read your Bible, you would know better. But no, we're all created equal, no matter what. And wouldn't it be boring if we was on this earth without all these different, like, Japanese people, Korean people, the Indian? My husband, he gets out in the sun and he tans like crazy, and I get out there and burn. But he gets it because of his Indian heritage. His grandmother had quite a bit of Cherokee, and she had beautiful long black hair. And but yeah, his dad was in the service, and they would do a lot of marching, and his skin would get really dark, and that's just because of the culture that I guess they had more melatonin in their skin. And I get out there, I might burn first, but he gets out there. I told him, I said, he got a sunburn the other day. I said, you need to wear a hat because that sun's not, when you get older, a lot of times you have to go to the dermatologist for them to check spots because you never know when that skin cancer is, going to come up. So I'm getting hoarse here. I'm talking so much. But, we have to treat everyone equal because that's how we were created by God. We're all equal, and we are all precious in His sight. And we're God's creation, and He does not make mistakes. He knew what we was going to go through down here. That's why God sent His Son to give us a chance at redemption and eternal life. And what a privilege to come and speak about, even though the crucifixion was very sad, but it was necessary. Like I said, I still can't watch that thing during Easter of His crucifixion. I cannot do it. I'm thinking, wow, this is the Messiah. I don't like violence anyway. And to see, you guys know where I'm coming from. But everything, like I said, for everything there's a reason, and for everything there's a season. God had to send His Son. And how sad it was that He was crucified and all these things took place. And it was only after He was gone that they realized that He was indeed the Messiah. See, it's like I don't know, it's like, people do things for the wrong reasons and then it comes back and they're like, why didn't I see that that was wrong? Why did I do that? And then once like Laura said, you can't unhear something and you can't undo it after it's done. You have to, you know, like I said, we're not perfect, and I would hate to have the job of being perfect because it's impossible because there's only one perfect person and he's not down here. So what time is it? But I thought that this was so important and all the tidbits of information in between the crucifixion and the resurrection. And we, we have a friend in Jesus where we can take all of our hurt, our sorrow, our pain, our everything to Him. And He says, "Give it to me," and it says that in the Bible. And He also says, "Take your cross and follow me." He doesn't mean like the same fashion that He did, but He means, take all your frustrations, your sorrows, and everything else. That's our cross that we must take to Him daily, because in this world there's a series of events, and it just sometimes it overwhelms us, and we feel like that, oh my goodness, how am I going to cope with this? What am I going to do? Go to the Bible, and it will give you comfort, and pray. And He always hears us, and He is there listening to what, He knows what we need, and He will provide that in His own time. So I think we're going to end this live, and I'm going to say a prayer, I hope, by people hearing this crucifixion and the resurrection may have put a light bulb on somewhere to know that there is someone in your corner and they're always there. You just have to believe and trust, and to believe one day. You got to follow the commandments as well, and to believe one day the hardships and the pain of this world is going to be over. And, we're going to dwell in the house of the Lord, heaven, that city not made with hands. So I hope that everyone in the chat was blessed by this. That was my intention, that by bringing this message. So next week, we're going to take a deep dive into Revelations. I know we're going to the end, but I think there's a lot of things in Revelation that pertains to a lot of things in the Bible. So I think I'm going to entitle it Revelations, it's the book in the Bible that is so intimidated by a lot of people, intimidate them, but it's the most informative, and people should not be afraid of the truth, because the truth is in there, and it just is telling you, that the time is growing short, and you must be on the right side of the Lord in order to inherit that kingdom that's going to be coming. We don't know the time or the hour, but you have to be ready for it. You can't get into stand before God and, well, I was going to. Well, there's no time like the present, and you have to, don't assume, because We don't know when he's coming back, but we know one thing: he's coming, and everything, all the wrongs will be made right. We'll be in paradise, and we'll have a new body. All the pain and suffering will be over with, but you have to believe. So, we're going to go ahead and go to God in prayer right now. I've really enjoyed doing this because even I learned something during this, and it's just so important. So, we'll go to the Lord in prayer now. Thank you, O God, for sending your Son that we may know life eternal in the last days of our lives. We may not know, Lord, what tomorrow brings, even the next second, but we do know, Lord, that you have gone and prepared a place for us, a place where thieves do not steal and rust doth not cover. And thank you, Lord, for the privilege to come before this chat and give the information from your crucifixion and resurrection so that we may have a better understanding of your plan for all of us. This we pray in your holy name. Amen. So next week it'll be Revelation, the book of Revelations, the most read and the least understood, and there is a lot in there, and I think it almost is a big synopsis of a lot of things, even in the beginning of the Bible and on through. So I think we'll do that. I think a lot of people fear Revelations, and there's really no fear. It's an apocalyptic part of the Bible that we all need to read. Now, are we all going to understand everything? Probably not, but I think knowing is half of the battle. So until next Tuesday, you guys have a great afternoon, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate you guys. Bye bye.